Today, we're diving into a really beautiful story about an 8-year-old girl's very first bus ride. But you'll see this is so much more than just a trip into town. It's actually her first real encounter with the wider world and a pretty powerful introduction to the mystery of life and death itself.
So, let's meet Volley. She's 8 years old, doesn't have any playmates her age, so her favorite thing to do is just stand in her front doorway and watch everything happening on the street. And for her, this is as good as any game. It's a never-ending show of new and interesting things. But of all the things she saw, what was the most fascinating part of her world? The bus. You see, it passed her house every single hour, like a moving theater with a whole new cast of characters each time. For Volley, this bus wasn't just a bus. It was a promise of a world that existed just beyond her street, and it sparked this tiny, powerful wish inside her. And that tiny wish, well, it quickly grew into a roaring fire. The idea of riding that bus just once got stronger and stronger until it became this overwhelming desire she just couldn't ignore. So let's see how she actually turned this dream into a real plan. Now, what's so amazing about Volley is how she went about this. She wasn't just daydreaming. For an 8-year-old, her focus was just incredible. She basically became a little detective, gathering clues from conversations she overheard, how much the fare was, how long the trip took. She calculated and planned every single detail. Of course, the biggest hurdle was the money. It was 30 paise to go and 30 paise to come back, 60 paise total. Now, that might sound like almost nothing, but for Volley, who almost never handled money, it was an absolute fortune. Saving it meant saying no to every little thing a kid would want. Peppermints, toys, balloons. Every coin she saved felt like a huge win.
And then, one beautiful spring afternoon, with the money finally in her pocket and her mom down for her usual nap, the moment was here. This is when all that meticulous planning finally kicks into gear. She steps out and puts up her tiny hand to stop the bus, so full of purpose. The conductor, who is a pretty jolly guy, offers to help her up, but she just says, "I can get on by myself." He was so amused by her seriousness and confidence that he jokingly started calling her Madam, and that nickname stuck for the whole trip. And this moment, right here, really gets to the heart of her journey. To everybody else on that bus, she's just a little kid. But in her own mind, nope, she paid her fare just like everyone else. She was an independent traveler, a madam on a very important trip. She saw herself as their equal.
So once she's on board, Volley is just taking it all in, just devouring everything with her eyes. The bus itself was incredible. It was brand new, the seats were soft and comfy. To get a better look, she stood up on her seat and the world just opened up in front of her. She saw a canal, palm trees, green fields that seemed to go on forever, all under this huge blue sky. To Volley, everything was just wonderful. Right now, Volley is completely lost in the pure joy and wonder of her adventure. But, every journey has a turning point, and hers is about to introduce her to a reality that's a lot bigger and more complicated than just a beautiful landscape. Suddenly, a young cow, with its tail straight up in the air, starts running right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The more the driver honked, the faster it galloped away. And for Volley, this was the funniest thing she had ever seen. She laughed so hard she had tears in her eyes. That cow was just pure, chaotic, wonderful life. Volley gets to town, but she stays on the bus, pays another 30 paise, and starts the trip home. The wonderful sights are all still there. But then, something makes her freeze. She saw the same young cow, but now it was lying dead by the side of the road. It must have been hit by another vehicle. The shock was just instant. The creature that had been so full of life and energy just a little while ago was now horrible, frightening. Its legs were spread out, and it had this fixed, lifeless stare in its eyes. And this is the moment where everything flips. The memory of that energetic, joyful, running cow is just shattered, and it's replaced by this awful stillness of death. The vibrant life that she was just laughing at was just gone. This experience changes the rest of the trip completely. The image of that dead cow just haunts her, and all her excitement is gone. The beautiful scenery she loved so much on the way there, it just doesn't matter anymore. She just sits glued to her seat, quiet and thoughtful, for the rest of the way home. So Volley gets off at her stop and runs straight home, arriving just as her mother is waking up. Nobody knows where she's been. On the outside, she's the exact same little girl, but on the inside, everything has changed. The story actually uses a very specific word to describe her journey. It calls it an induction, which is just perfect, isn't it? This wasn't just a bus ride. It was a formal introduction to one of life's biggest and most difficult mysteries, the connection between being alive and not.
When Valley gets back, her mother is chatting with her aunt about all the things that happen in the world that we can't possibly understand. And her mother says, and even when we do know about something, we often can't understand it completely, can we? She has absolutely no idea how deeply those words apply to her own daughter at that very moment.
And Valley's response is so simple, but it carries the entire weight of her journey. Oh, yes. She just breathes. It's this quiet confirmation. She now understands something that the adults around her don't. That huge gap between knowing something exists and truly understanding what it means. Her aunt calls her a little chatterbox for chiming in, but Vali just smiles to herself. It's a secret smile, one that's filled with this heavy new knowledge she has. She's been on a journey that the adults in her life can't even begin to imagine, and that smile holds all of it. Valley's short trip on the bus was way more than an adventure. It was a profound lesson that changed her forever. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? What were those seemingly small moments from your own childhood that ended up teaching you the biggest lessons about how the world really works?